Hey, howdy do out there everyone, my name is Michael and welcome to the Duke Corner where I do the doodles for practice and fun. Happy New Year and late Merry Christmas. I was spending time with family and dog family, so I didn't bother posting anything last week, but in the interim I've been scripting and designing as I do, and this is the next of my projects from this year and probably my favorite. Well, maybe second favorite that I've made. It's a close contest. I've made a lot of really cool stuff right at the end. The third project in my environments class was very unlike my last project, where I blundered and failed, pushing myself too far into realms I didn't understand, whereas here I sort of rebounded and really found myself. Admittedly, it was easier than the secret lair to do that. The secret lair was everything outside my zone of knowledge, but this project was to create a national park poster for some location, real, fake, whatever. Any style, any location, so realistically it wasn't actually about a national park at all. But I stuck to the prompt, and went with my favorite place, Yellowstone. And my favorite thing, a fox. I know, I'm sorry for those not as fond of foxes as I, but I've filled almost every project I've done this year with foxes, and I honestly can't stop. And I've got no complaints yet, so I'm still gonna keep doing it. But anyways, in order to capture that silkscreen printing style of the old parks posters, I went with the most reliable for me, vector illustration. Don't get me wrong, despite all that, this project was also rife with disaster right from the beginning with style error, even though it came out a lot better than the previous project. I had the main sketch pretty quick. I had been collecting references and planning this out for some time now, and I was really looking forward to this project. After the last time, I totally recoiled back into my comfort zone, and all of this was completely in my element. The stars had aligned. A vector drawing of a fox and a mountain. How much easier does it get for me? Those three things have effectively defined every piece of artwork I have made this entire year. And it kind of comes to show as it's one of my best all year as well. The last project, well, if you watch the video, you'll know, but the last project was torture. And this one would be my redemption arc. I had a perfect vision of what I wanted, and I got to work as quick as I could making this one to spec. But of course, as always they do, my issues began as I started working out the basic tone map of grays. So basically right when I started. I kept pushing it to try and be exactly the same as the sketch, to line it up and make it make sense with this weird hook-over-the-edge look of the mountain view, and so began the same perfectionism that murdered the Secret Lair project. It really just wasn't coming together, just looked wrong no matter what way I tried it, like I was trying to cram too much into the composition. I measured it in all sorts of wacky ways to try and split up the canvas, and eventually had to give in to the piece and just let it be what it wanted to be. A mountain without an overview of a river below. Removing the overview actually did wonders for the piece, but next I ran into a trouble right out of that, which was the style. Like I said, I was trying to mimic that silkscreen poster style that the National Parks commissioned during the Depression, but the curves in Illustrator I think are just hell to work with a lot of the time, so I kept creating these designs in various levels of detail, some just blocks of shapes and others more fractaled and detailed. I went through, accidentally, every style I knew and could muster, remaking the poster almost 20 times from scratch, just trying to build some kind of underlying structure that I could work on top of to make the curves right. Not realizing all the while that I had literally made the poster 20 times and could have just let it be what it was. But I was blindsided on that plan. Even though the more I looked at it, the more I liked the geometric ones, I just couldn't give it up. I know that's sort of my MO at this point, but I've been experimenting all through last year, developing on my previous, shall we say, blech style of vector drawing, and pushing the bounds with colors and shapes. It may seem simple and small, especially compared to other artistic developments I probably could have or maybe should have been working on, but that's just the natural direction that I went, and the level of difference becomes so noticeable so quickly as things start to build on each other, and all those little experiments became a new style that was profoundly different from what I was doing before, an evolution or an upgrade, surpassing the simplicity of my previous works and quite literally adding dimensions to my designs, which were previously rather flat. This little bout of learning snowballed into me exceeding my limits and unlocking new possibilities for how I can approach designs and drawings in the future. But even knowing that, I still deliberated and analyzed. I wanted it a certain way, and I couldn't get it there. And even with the fractal design screaming at me to be finished, I just kept remaking it and wasting my efforts to force the design into the checkbox I wanted. It took a lot of exhaustive convincing over several weeks by myself and my teacher, but when I relented and poured my focus into the new fractal style, the penultimate combination of all my learning and experiments and doodles, it became so much more than I could have hoped, and so incredibly fast too. In a sort of way, I was just falling back on my comfort zone, but I was also expanding it significantly. At this point, I had basically already made the poster tenfold over, and all it really needed was color and touch-up, which all sort of just spilled in like it was meant to be. I usually struggle with trees, but because I let loose and realized I could just sort of cartoonize them a bit, it came out amazing. Where I went overboard on detail in the sky and ground, I broke convention and changed the style a bit to simplify. I even really broke convention at the end and added a bunch of multiply layers with raster images to try and make this frosty edge and sunset glow of the clouds, which I think adds a really nice touch to it. The piece ended up actually being a lot more grayscale than I had initially intended, with the fox being the only huge pop of color and little highlights in the snow everywhere being secondary nods at color. You'll see, sort of flashing by in a quick zoom, that I struggled initially to make this really vibrant teal and orange color scheme, but in the end the white and gray just looked better and fit the direction that the process had taken me thus far naturally. Through this whole process, I sort of stopped trying to put the poster in a box and force it to be what I envisioned it as, and let myself meander with the piece to make changes as it needed. Each block I laid down inspired the next, and each bout of inspiration changed the direction I had planned on going in unpredictable ways. It's impossible to see the whole picture, I think, perfectly from the start, and to try to do so erases the happy accidents, as Bob would call them, that inform the piece through the process. And so rolling with the flow of things and letting the process dictate the design a little, I think is important to be innovative. I couldn't even show what the original was meant to be now, even if I tried again, because I let the vision be malleable to the excitement of creation in the moment, and I think for the better. It is what it is, and it became what it became. Usually I pride myself on being open and free, letting the design take me where it wants, going with the nature of artistic innovation rather than fighting it for the sake of some perfect idea. I'm not an architect, I'm an artist, and I'm glad I let myself do that this time around because it created something I wasn't planning on and didn't expect, and ended up being the next evolution of my skill, which I can now take into new works and grow off of in the future. Which, considering that this piece is significantly behind in the backlog of things that I've made, I've actually already been doing to great success, I think. And hopefully you'll get to all be seeing that with me soon. But for now, that's the end. Thanks for listening to this point if you made it. I really hope you all enjoyed this story time and had a good New Year's and such. I was really interested in creating some kind of reel of all my projects for the year. I know some animators make, year-by-year reels of their work, and I thought that would be fun to do for all of my work as well, but I haven't finished showing them all to you yet, so that's not really going to work right now. But if you want to see a 2024 reel of all my work sometime later, when I'm ready to show, let me know. I think it could be really cool to see the growth slide by in one succinct montage. As for now, have a lovely day. Don't forget to do all that likes and subscribble stuff, and without further ado, farewell.